Favorite volunteer vacations across America. We speak to the author on this episode of Travel Television. On Webtips, a site for the conservation and enjoyment of the Appalachian Trail. All this and more, so on to our first stop.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
In 2005, Kathleen Johnson answered a call to duty and became perhaps the most unlikeliest of advocates for survivors of Hurricane Katrina along Mississippi's obliterated Gulf Coast.
This is Kathleen, can I help you?
5 years later, she's still at it, and thankfully, so are thousands of volunteers she and a small committed band of co-workers at the Waveland Citizens Fund continue to organize and assist. What compelled you to come down?
I was watching, I've never done anything like this. I was watching the news, and I remember that day, it was the third day into the storm, and I don't remember which national TV broadcast it was, but they kept saying, we don't know what's going on in Waveland, and it was day 3. And I'm sitting there yelling at the TV, you can go to the moon, and you can't tell me on day 3 what's going on in Waveland. And it just made me so sad because I knew that the demographics had to be the elderly, and it bothered me.
So Johnson, a native Australian who came to America in 1972, married and raised a family, took things into her own hands. She made contact with a minister on the coast, worked with firemen in Thompsonville, Illinois, to fill a semi-truck with supplies, and headed south on a journey that would change her life.
I was appalled by the lack of infrastructure to support the elderly. It was horrific when I came down, but it was their plight that bothered me, and that there was no outreach to get to them. It was every man for themselves, and you had to get to the resource station. We have 480 homes here that need to be finished, that I know of, and there's thousands across the coast that still are not finished. A lot of them vacated their THUs, their temporary housing units, early with promises that never materialized, so they're living in their gutted out homes, they're living in sheds. The volunteer effort is huge still. We have either the university students, which are university groups, or we have church groups that come through. 2 different styles and 2 different agendas. The university students are here doing the service work for their organizations. The church groups are here to serve and to do their ministry work, and as a side of that is the volunteer work on the houses. And the age range is from 10 all the way up. I think the oldest one we've had here was 82. So the age is there's no age barrier. If you've got something you can offer, we need you here. And I think we're going to lose I am going to try and make it to the built. And I don't have the energy. Let me do this. Who is this? We've already built. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All day?
All day. Every day. Virtually building houses. It's an interesting job to have, helping people through this. Making contractors out of every one of the residents of the Gulf Coast. It's been a struggle. It has been an absolute struggle. One nail at a time. It's a very slow way to do a recovery. How many have not recovered and who are not going to recover? That's the question I think everybody should be asking as we go into the 5th year. What are the real figures? There was no central point for us to report our data, ever, in 5 years. As the different organizations collected their data and did their work, they took their data and went home. And unfortunately in Katrina, most of the data has exited the state, and there is no data for us to go back and evaluate.
The compound Johnson and her colleagues have created in Poplarville can house 70 volunteers at a time, plus equipment and supplies. In 5 years, more than 20,000 people have donated their time and energy to the cause, and most have called this place home at least for a while. For Johnson, home and family await out west, but what's kept her in Mississippi for so long?
That one more house. I'm working on 3 right now, and I keep saying that's it. But we'll see. I am going to try and make it to December. That is my goal.
Volunteering, including the latest volunteer vacations across America. The book includes over 200 affordable trips throughout the United States, from free opportunities to internships, stipends, and volunteerism packages. Having traveled to almost every state, this guide chronicles a long list of volunteer activities. Travel Television recently spoke with Sheryl, and now she shares some of her favorite trips. Hi, this is Kevin Mayray from Travel Television. I'm here with Sheryl Kane, the author of her new book, Volunteer Vacations Across America. So tell us a little bit about the book. Sheryl.
Oh, my pleasure. Volunteer Vacations Across America is the first book of its kind, with over 200 volunteer vacations only in the United States. So it's the first time that has been done. It's really very exciting. I wanted people to be more aware of what was available right here in the United States. And this has trips with people, working with people, communities, wildlife, the environment, and national parks.
Interesting. Tell us a little bit about, you have a term, and it kind of segues to your other book. You call yourself the Immersion Traveler.
That's right. I'm the original Immersion Traveler. And Immersion Travel USA was my first travel guidebook. And I always wanted to not just visit, but get involved. And I love to get in the car, go somewhere, and really become part of the environment. And that's what Immersion Travel is all about. I've taken jobs where I go as a volunteer cook. I've worked as a cook, I've worked as a naturalist, I've worked with whales. And it's really exciting when you go to a new place and you connect, when you have a specific job or volunteer position or a goal in mind, you become part of the community and you really connect with the locals and you learn to do things the way they do. And it's not just visiting. I say that you don't want to just visit, you want to get involved and give back.
Right.
And when I was researching my first book, Immersion Travel USA, which my website is also immersiontraveler.com, that's when I realized that there were so few books that focused on volunteer vacations here in the United States. So many of the books would have 100 all over Europe and all over the world, with maybe 25, 30 here in the United States. And I said, people need our help right here. And the best thing about having the trips right here in the United States is also that you can revisit. You can connect with places, learn about something, match your passion and your interest to things you want to do right here.
Now tell us, now that we're on this book, why don't you tell us how it's organized?
Well, it's organized into the different areas working specifically for people, with people, which I love, the Bay Area Wilderness Training. This is an organization that you can go mountain climbing. Have you ever been mountain climbing?
I haven't.
Well, I would love to do that. And people climb mountains, raise money to benefit at-risk teens.
Interesting.
So that then they can get the teenagers out into the wilderness and hopefully mountain climbing as well. But it's very exciting. And they also sponsor a library of wilderness gear. So it supplies kids with the gear they need and the training that ordinarily they would never get. So it's really very exciting.
Well, that is amazing. So basically it looks like with this book, if you want to spend anywhere from volunteer vacations across America, a couple of hours as part of your trip, or as you said, Sheryl, these can be supplement, or even they could be lifetime decision makers for you.
That's right.
This is the book you want to pick up. And your website again, just so everybody knows that?
immersiontraveler.com.
Right. IMMERSION. I know it's long. Say traveler.com. So check out Sheryl Kane, the author of her new book, Volunteer Vacations Across America, as well as her other book, Immersion Travel USA. Sheryl, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It was great.
The Appalachian Trail Conservancy, or ATC, is a volunteer-based organization dedicated to preserving and managing the natural, scenic, historic, and cultural resources associated with the Appalachian National Scenic Trail, so that primitive outdoor recreation and educational opportunities can be sustained for trail visitors. A visit to their website, appalachiantrail.org, explains that ATC works closely with numerous federal, state, and local agencies, and with 30 member clubs, their volunteers in the cooperative management of the trail with a main office and official trail visitor center in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Volunteers are needed to become a part of the effort to protect it from new threats that arise every day. These are threats to the hiking experience and the fragile web of life found on the Appalachian Trail. Visit the site to find out how you can train to become a volunteer trail crew member, wildlife advocate, rare and exotic flora protector, and a member of a team that preserves this beautiful trail for generations to come. The site features all the volunteer opportunities, volunteer blogs, and a volunteer of the month. Could that be you? Find out on their website.
Right behind me is a tuk-tuk, and it's one of the ways you can actually experience this town. We're going to do just that with our driver. We're going to spend the next few hours exploring some of the ins and outs of what you can see and do in Siem Reap. So we're here in the old market in Siem Reap, and you literally have people selling fish and vegetables and fermented fish right next to the guys selling backpacks, baseball caps, sandals, Nikes, you name it. Buy chicken in the States, right? Well, does it come with the feet attached and the legs like this? Probably not. And here in this market, they literally give you an open view into the chicken itself. Take a look here. This reminds me of my AP biology class in high school where we dissected animals, because I can see literally all the major organs of this particular guy who's seen better days. This is Artisans Angkor. It's a collective that was started in 1992. How does it work? They actually send tests out to folks in the countryside who have some artistic ability. They take a test, and if they pass that test, they could be invited here to spend 1 year honing their craft. We're actually going to take a walk around to the various workshops here and see exactly what they do. We're entering the silk painting workshop. What they'll literally do is paint directly on silk, but what's unique about this workshop is that all of the artists that you see here are deaf and mute. So explain what you do right here.
Here we have compressed wood. And after that, we painting with the lacquer on the compressed wood.
So the compressed wood, and you use an etching, some type of etching. How does that work?
Lacquer painting.
Okay, so you lacquer paint the compressed wood, and then you take
the stencil.
Okay.
We have the stencil, and after that we have the chalk powder.
Okay.
Just that we rub on the stencil like that. When we take it out, and we will see the line on it here.
And that's how they actually will then paint.
Yeah, after that, and we painting with the varnish. It's down here with the varnish, down here. And after the varnish, and then we putting with the copper. This is the copper that we stick on it here like that. And we stick, and then become like this.
Okay, very neat.
This is the final, and
so you're seeing the whole process here.
Yes.
this gentleman right here is working on is a piece of soapstone. He's actually doing some rough carving to get a general shape. Once he gets that general shape, you end up with this. Which basically kind of looks like an elephant. But that's when the artist really gets to work. And as you see this gentleman right here, he's hand carving the details of this elephant, and you can literally see it coming together. Artisan's Angkor is a wonderful stop and a must stop when you do come to Siem Reap, because you will see things being made before your eyes, and we'll also have an opportunity to stop in the gift shop and buy some of these wonderful, wonderful items to remember your trip to Cambodia.
Hi, this is Kevin Mayberry from Travel Television, and I'm here with Patricia Schultz. How are you, Patricia?
Very well, thanks.
Good.
Thank you.
She is the author of 1,000 Places to See Before You Die in USA and Canada. Patricia, I haven't talked for about a couple of years, so I wanted to ask you, what are some of the places that you've been in your past couple of years of travels, and things that you would maybe add to your vast array of places that you've seen?
You know, it's a great question, because the book should be a kind of work in progress, because it reflects my most recent and those places that continue to just, you know, blow me off my chair. The most recent, I'm really not even unpacked, is Colombia, the country of Colombia in South America. Really off the radar for decades. And in the last many years, there's a new president for the last 8 years. He's done a phenomenal, so respected within the country, much loved because he's really cleaned up the whole drug situation. Beautiful country, really just stunning. So that was a real eye-opener, and that was an all-time favorite trip, because I just didn't know if in my lifetime it would ever be, you know, a kind of place that was welcoming American tourism, and it is, and you should go now because it's kind of in transition. Also, I went to the Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They, when I wrote the book that came out in 2003, were just kind of opening up to Western tourism.
Right,
They've had a very troubled many centuries. So that was remarkable too. Very reserved people, but a phenomenally rich history and beautiful country. Very easy to get to as well from within Europe, connecting into the Baltics. And the Balkans, because the former Yugoslavian countries, again, when I was writing in the late 90s, were not really on the map. You know, they were still very riddled with a civil war that decimated so many of the countries and left them, you know, a closed destination. But that as well, the Dalmatian coast, Slovenia is beautiful, Montenegro, and the list goes on.
Right.
Really, there are so many places.
Well, you have a big list now, so do you have any upcoming publications or books?
Yeah, I'm doing a revision, but because I have 1,000 places, then how do you accommodate all of the aforementioned?
Yeah.
But I'm reorganizing it, and I'm reworking it, and I'm merging, and I'm trying to make it so that by putting 2 or 3, for example, 2 or 3 Mayan ruins in Mexico into one entry, I suddenly have an extra page or 2 to accommodate new destinations.
Good thinking, good thinking.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, switch gears a little bit. The 50th anniversary of the Peace Corps and Partners of America are coming up. And, you know, for 5 decades, it has definitely had a dramatic effect on with Americans, as they're very used to domestic travel. I mean, you can just take a train ride, you know, on the weekend down to, you know, up to, say, for where I live in D.C., up to New York or something like that, or even, you know, take a trip down to Florida or something like that. Really quick stuff. Mm-hmm. But
or very, if I may interrupt, also very safe stuff, because it was not unlikely to do the London, Paris, Rome bit, you know, as well. The Grand Tour had become a backpacking trip through the cultural capitals of Europe. But what this did was bring attention to all the third world or developing nations, and to encourage Americans who wanted to do something substantial with their lives and didn't quite know what. This was a phenomenal opportunity for them, and I so admire them, and many of my friends, in fact, did do just that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is probably your favorite developing country that you've actually been to?
Oh, you know, all throughout the Middle East, I also actually don't know what the official description or explanation of what a developing nation is, but
Right.
visually it would appear to me that Syria, where we were just last year, and Lebanon and Jordan, there's an enormous amount of poverty, but there's also an incredible wealth, millennia of, you know, Silk Route influence over the centuries. So they, especially Syria, I think Syria just was one of my eye-opening experiences because, you know, there's this kind of don't go there, it's the axis of evil and all of this dark political, and in fact the people are remarkably welcoming, and I never felt so safe or so graciously accepted, because they've been doing that for thousands of years, really. It's very much in their DNA, I think.
So it sounds like really part of what you're saying is that if you really want to experience a culture, a country, a place, you got to go there.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, you know, we get so spoiled, these big flat screen, gorgeous National Geographic documentaries, and they are award-winning.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
But my Mongolian friend said to me, there's an age-old expression that better to see something once than to talk about it 1,000 times. And there's just nothing like seeing it face-to-face and in person, and all of the interaction, because at the end of the day, it's the people, and you don't get that from a flat screen television.
Right. I wanted to ask you a question, actually. I was looking up your bio profile, and there was a quote that not from you, from somebody else, and I wanted to read it, actually. And it's, "The journey abroad reflects the one within, the most unknown and foreign and unmapped landscape of them all, the ultimate terra incognita, excuse me." How did you come up with, basically, that quote obviously has influenced your life a lot. How did you come to that quote?
And I wish I had written it myself. Somebody said it far better. I think it's just kind of as old as time that travel as therapy. You know, you can leave home behind for a trillion different reasons, whatever personally resonates in your circumstances at the moment. You know, a dramatic breakup with your girlfriend, or the death of a parent, the death of a dog, just in between jobs, I want to switch gears, where do I go, what do I do? You know, a moment to kind of reassess, and while being out of the same old, while removing yourself from all of the, obligations and the stuff that weigh you down, I think it opens you up and it gives you that moment to really, really be alone. And I've traveled a lot by myself. I've also traveled with best friends, a significant other, my grandparents, the family dog. I've traveled in all manners, but just traveling per se, I think, is incredibly. There's another quote also by Einstein, who said that travel opens your mind, and your mind then never quite recedes back to its original shape. And that goes for your inner self, for your soul, for your heart, for your head. I think travel just expands you. And whatever you're experiencing internally, I think travel is the ultimate therapy.
To preserve this nation's natural heritage of geological and biological diversity, including some things that can be seen nowhere else in the world. That's why the National Park Service created the National Natural Landmarks Program. The program designates as NNLs areas that are among the best examples of a type of biological community or geological feature. About 1/3 of the nearly 600 of these landmarks are in private hands. The program has several goals: to encourage the preservation of sites illustrating the geological and ecological character of the United States, to enhance the scientific and educational value of those sites, and to foster a greater concern for the conservation of the nation's natural heritage. NNL sites can be land or water ecosystems such as lakes and swamps, geological features, or fossil sites. Some NNLs are the best remaining examples of a type of feature. You might say creating the program was a landmark decision.
My name is Jim Barrett. I'm from Merrimack, New Hampshire, and I came down here with the Duffley family. This is my third 8 Days of Hope, and we heard that there was going to be some new construction going on. In the past, it's always been remodel stuff, and we've done a lot of drywall work, And so we got involved in working on this house. We started about a week ago, and we're hanging drywall right now. So we've had a lot of good help, and we've had some really good crews working on this house, right from the frame up through all the utility work, and now we're getting into some of the finish work. I first got started working on some volunteer projects actually in eastern Kentucky with a church group a few years ago, and I really enjoyed just taking a week or two every year. When I was in eastern Kentucky, we were working on a community center that was run down, and after Katrina hit, the call was to come down here. My mother grew up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, even though I live in New Hampshire. So I had some cousins that lost their houses in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. I know some people that had some losses from Hurricane Rita out in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So I still feel called to come back here and volunteer with 8 Days of Hope, and that's probably something I'll be doing if I can in the future.